EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen has announced a plan worth hundreds of billions of euros to help member states bounce back from the recession triggered by the coronavirus pandemic. That plan includes a 500 billion euro fund proposed by Germany and France based on common EU debt. Now, von der Leyen said the fund is an ambitious answer to the challenge they're facing. She also said the European Union is facing the choice of each country going it alone or responding together as a continent.
The money will be raised by temporarily lifting the own resources ceiling to allow the Commission to use its very strong credit rating to borrow money on the financial markets. This is an urgent and exceptional necessity for an urgent and exceptional crisis. Next Generation EU will invest in repairing our social fabric, protect our single market, help rebalancing balance sheets across Europe.
Let's bring in our correspondent, Barbara Wesel, following this story for us in Brussels. Hi, Barbara. Tell us more about what Ursula von der Leyen has been saying.
She has sort of given the details, the most important details at least, for what this plan entails. For instance, we know now that Italy, which is one of the worst hit countries in Europe by the coronavirus, is supposed to get about 170 billion euros for the recovery of its economy. Spain is in with 140, and then from there it sort of slowly goes down. But even Germany gets some money back out of this big pot. What is new and what really is sort of like the historical point here is, and Ursula von der Leyen, we just heard it set this out again, is for the first time ever, the European Commission is supposed to go or wants to go out into the financial markets and raise money. Its credit rating is, of course, very good. It has this huge budget to sort of lean on as a guarantee in the background. And it will then go and sort of make this magic money that is supposed to help Europe out of the crisis. And if you look closer into the details of the plan, it, of course, it needs to balance north against south, and it needs to balance, and therefore we have a part of the money in grants and part of it in loans that need to be paid back, even though at a very later point in time. And also it has to balance east against south. We have sort of new frontiers here in Europe, tensions that didn't used to be there before. And so some money, of course, sizable amounts will go to Eastern Europe to sort of pacify, for instance, the Polish government, which is already up in arms because it might become a net contributor to the next EU budget. So all this is a very intricate sort of piece of fabric that needs to balance the interests of all the countries and at the same time needs to sort of glue the European Union back together, which might come unstuck because of the consequences of the coronavirus.
Barbara, it is an ambitious plan, and it comes at a time where Germany will be taking over the EU Council's rotating presidency in about a little over a month from now. I want to talk to you about that in a moment, but first let's take a look at what that will mean.
The corona crisis struck in the midst of Merkel's preparations for Germany's EU presidency, suddenly forcing her to focus on what she's most known for, crisis management. In my view, Europe, the European Union, is currently facing its biggest challenge since it was founded. Europe was already divided before Corona struck. Until 3 months ago, the Commission's Green Deal on climate change and finalising the next EU budget, along with Brexit, looked like the hardest issues to overcome this year. Now Merkel, still infamous in Europe's southern states over her handling of the euro and financial crises, may face her biggest challenge yet. She will have to pull Europe back from the kind of nation-state thinking that kicked in as the initial reflex when the corona crisis struck. Here, being Europe's longest-serving leader, who heads its largest economy, could help. Merkel has already started pledging German money, for the first time accepting joint EU debt as part of a joint 500 billion euro recovery plan with French President Emmanuel Macron. she may drop more red lines. Our goal is to see Europe emerge from this crisis closer and stronger than before. Whether Angela Merkel can push Europe to take a leap of faith into the future may prove decisive for the stability of the EU. It will certainly be decisive for her entry into the history books.
So, Barbara, this really is a lot of responsibility falling on Germany in the next 6 months.
Absolutely. Angela Merkel will really show that she can be the leader of the European Union, that she will be capable as the most experienced and knowledgeable European leader, that she will be capable of pulling back the Union from the brink, because there is a certain threat that it might fall apart simply through the economic disaster that is looming on the horizon. The ECB, the European Central Bank, has just said that they expect the GDP, that is the economic strength of Europe, to fall by economic output of Europe to fall by between 8 to 12%. Now, this is huge. And so they have to counteract that. And it will be up to Angela Merkel to sort of pull all these interests and pull all these conflicts together, North and South and East and South and East, and of course Germany in the middle of this. She will have to be sort of the maker of all those compromises that will have to be found, because all these battles that will be fought will be about the detail. And usually in Europe, when it's about the money, all friendship ends, and very often common sense ends. And we know what her main argument will be, because she's already used it when she talked to Emmanuel Macron. She said, it is in our interest. She meant Germany, and she will say this a lot in the coming months. It is in our interest, and she's going to mean the European Union.
Barbara Weisel reporting for us there in Brussels. Thank you.